This is going to be a quick tutorial on how to make a whip cracker. The cracker is the twisted piece of rope at the end of your whip which breaks the sound barrier when the whip is cracked. Specifically, it's these frayed bits at the very end of the cracker which break the sound barrier. Because they're so fine, they're able to disperse the energy and accelerate at a much faster rate than the rest of the whip. You may need to replace your cracker if it is worn down, or if it's knotted, or simply if it's come off while you've been cracking and you've lost it. For example, this is a cracker which very clearly needs to be replaced because, as you can see, the frayed bit on the end is basically gone just from a lot of use. Similarly, this is a cracker which also needs to be replaced because there's many knots just from practice that can't be undone. They're very tight, and so this cracker will have a very difficult time breaking the sound barrier, as will this one. However, a cracker like this is in perfect condition and will have no problem cracking, and this is ideally what you want at the end of your whip. So this is going to be a tutorial on how to make and replace one of these. Your materials for this are very simple. You're just going to need some string and scissors or a knife or something of that sort, something to cut the string, essentially. I'm using poly string because I find that it cracks very well and it likes to fray very well. The only downside to it is that because of those properties, it needs to be replaced more often than something like nylon or Kevlar, which doesn't wear down as fast, but also doesn't tend to crack as nicely in my opinion, and also tends to knot up a lot more quickly. To start, you're going to cut 2 strands of string. I make mine about 2.5 feet long. My crackers are typically 6 inches long with a 3-bit fuzzy bit on the end, so about 9 inches long in total. And I like to make my strings quite a bit longer than that, just so that I have extra. But yeah, 2.5 feet is probably going to be fine. I'm using 1 strand of white and 1 strand of red, just because it's easier for you guys to see, and also because the end product looks kind of cool. But you could just use white and white, or whatever else you want to use, really. The only thing to make sure is that when you're using string, especially different kinds of string, to see which way it's twisted. So this red string, if I twist it this way, it kind of comes undone, whereas if I twist it this way, it tightens, and the white string acts the opposite, and that's not something that you want. Ideally, you would have 2 strings that twist the same way, because then you're going to have the tightest cracker possible. However, because this is just for demonstration, it doesn't really matter, and I'm going to be using 2 that are counter-twisted. So, my first step is to take my 2 strings, and I'm going to put them together like this, and I'm going to grab the other 2 ends, I'm going to hold them all in one hand, just like this, and find the middle of the 2 strings. So the middle's about here. And what I want to do is twist. So I'll take the middle, give it about 1 inch or so, and I'm going to twist them together, just like this, and that's going to be the start of my cracker. Once I have a nice twist in here, I've given it about 2 or 3 little turns of the hand. When I bring my hands together, you'll see that a loop wants to form in the cracker. That's awesome. That's a really good sign. So we're going to take this loop, and we're going to pinch it, and then we're on to our next step. Alright, I've changed the angle here so you guys can see. I have my twisted loop that I'm pinching. What I'm going to do is I'm going to find out which strand is on the bottom. So in this case, it's this strand. I'm going to pinch, and I'm going to take the bottom strand, and I'm going to twist it 2 or 3 times like that, and I'm going to grab the other 2 strands with the ring finger and place the twisted strands on top of the untwisted strands like that, and then I'm going to pinch again. So I'm going to twist, I'm going to find the untwisted strand, twist, I'm going to put it on top of the twisted strand. Put the twisted on top of the untwisted, sorry. And that's all I'm going to be doing. I'm going to do it over, and over, and over, and over, until I've made the twisted bit as long as it needs to be. Typically it takes a few minutes. I'm not going to make you sit through that, but yeah, this is all that you have to do. A really fast way of doing it is to pinch, and make sure, by the way, that as you're twisting and going over, you're moving your thumb down to keep hold of the last twist and place over that you've made, sorry, so that your cracker doesn't become untwisted during this process. Anyway, a really fast way of doing this is to, again, find the bottom strand, twist, grab, twist, grab, twist, grab, twist, grab, and so on. And just do that all the way down the cracker. Alright, so once you've reached a length of twist that you like, again, I like about 6 inches, but it's really up to you. You're going to pinch the end where you finished and turn the cracker over. Now, what you're going to do is find the top strands. So for me, the top strands are here on the right. Okay, I'm going to pinch, and keeping this tight is very important because during this part the cracker may tend to unravel a little, and ideally you don't want that to happen. So I'm going to keep a nice pinch there. I'm going to take the top 2 strands and I'm going to put them over top of the cracker. So like this, right? And now I've made a loop. And what I want to do is take the ends of the top 2 strands and put them around and through the loop, like that. And then I do it twice to make sure that it's really tied on there, but some people just do it once and they say that works for them, so whatever you want to do. But I do it twice, like that. So it's through twice, like that. And then you're going to pull on this to tighten the knot, like that. And you've knotted and finished your cracker. Now if you'll notice, I've lost some of the twist in the end of my cracker here. That's because I let go of the pinch, and that's not what you want to happen. If you look at a proper cracker, like this one, you'll notice it's twisted all the way to the knot. That's because there's good pressure put on this while the knot was being tied. A good tip for when you're making your cracker, and I often do this when I'm not filming, is I'll actually bite down on the end of the cracker here where the loop is, and that way it makes sure that I keep the cracker tight. I don't need to worry about holding it, and my hands are free to tie the knot at the end of the cracker. But once you've done that, most of the work on your cracker is basically finished. All you need to do is cut the ends of the cracker. So you're going to grab your scissors, which mine are right here, and you're going to cut the length that you want the fluffy bit to be. As I said before, I make crackers that are about 6 inches long with a 3-inch fluffy bit on the end. So a good way of measuring that is just taking the cracker and putting it in half, and then cutting it about half, so it's about there. If you'll notice, I have 2 sets of short strands and 2 sets of long strands. That's because when I started twisting the cracker initially, I wasn't exactly in the middle, so being in the middle is definitely an advantage when you're making a cracker. So yeah, what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold, find half, that's about 3 inches there, and I'm going to cut. Now when I cut, I want to make sure that I cut straight across all 4 strands. I want them all to be the exact same length. The reason for this is when you've dispersed your cracker like this, or when you've broken it in, the energy is going to be able to be dispersed a lot more easily because certain strands aren't taking more of the weight than others. So what I want to do is just cut straight across like that. Some people use an X-Acto knife, some people use nail clippers. Really use whatever you want to do. But now the majority of your cracker is done. Obviously these bits still need to be frayed, but that's going to happen with cracking your whip and breaking in the cracker. Now the last thing you need to do is figure out how to remove the old cracker, which you no longer want, and then how to put on the new cracker that you've just made. To do that, you need to cut this cracker off of your whip. Now, if you were cracking and your cracker wasn't attached very well, it may have flown off while you're practicing, and so you don't need to worry about this because you're just putting the new one on, but I'm going to assume that your cracker is still attached to your whip and you want to get it off. How I do this, and again it may vary based on how the cracker is attached to the whip, is I'll look at the knot and I'll find a spot where the cracker is exposed. So right here, for example, it's exposed there, and I'm going to cut that part of the whip. Now, oh no, that part of the cracker, not the whip. This you need to be very careful with because you don't want to cut the fall. Wall falls are easily replaceable and they're meant to be replaced eventually. It's not something that you really want to do because you want to prolong the life of your whip, and that means prolonging the life of your fall, and that means just cutting the cracker. So find a spot where the cracker is readily available to you, and very carefully you're just going to snip away at the cracker until you break it in half. So like this. A lot of people use nail clippers for this, which is very effective, but I just have scissors, so that's what I'm going to use. So as you can see here, I've cut some of the cracker away. A little bit more to go, just right in there, like one little tiny string. Yeah. So now the cracker is broken, and quite simply all I need to do is just pull and untwist, and then the rest of the cracker comes pretty well right off, which is awesome. Now, how do I attach it? I take my new cracker, and this loop that we made at the very beginning of twisting the cracker, we're going to untwist a little, like this. So now I have a bigger loop. I'm going to put the fall through that loop, just like so. Yep. And now the cracker is hanging onto the fall by that loop, and we're just going to twist it back up, make it nice and tight. Awesome. Next, we're going to take the fall and we're going to loop it around itself. So I put the fall over top of itself. I've made this loop. As you can see, the strand with the cracker is on top and the rest of the fall is on the bottom. And I'm going to take the cracker, I'm going to put it through the loop, just like that, and I'm going to pull tight. And when I pull tight, I want to make sure that I don't pull the fall through itself. I want to keep it on the other side of the knot. And also, when I put the cracker onto the whip, I want to make sure that I don't have it right at the very end of the fall, but I also don't have it way down on the fall because it's not going to tie properly. So I leave, I don't know, say a quarter of an inch when I put the cracker on the fall, like that, and I pull through. And that's going to stop the cracker from flying off when you're practicing, and it's going to keep a little bit revealed so that when you need to replace your cracker, you can just cut it. So yeah, now I'm just going to pull tight, like this, and your cracker is attached to your whip. So now you can go out and crack and practice, and this bit will fray up just like you need it to, and you'll get nice cracks with your new cracker.